Welcome to the Next Set podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rehan Tahir. This show is going to be about everyday humans who want to train with purpose and perform better in real life. We'll break down strength and conditioning, exercise and fitness, along with mindset with coaches who live it. So let's get started. Hey everyone, today's episode on the Next Set podcast, I have a very special guest. I'm very happy to introduce Mr. Rehan Jalali, the one and only. And yes, if you haven't noticed, we have the same first name. So I have a laundry list here for his bio, but he said not to go on and ramble here. So I mean, celebrity trainer, nutritionist, works with some of the Hollywood's biggest stars, bodybuilding champion, fitness model, product formulator, motivational speaker. I mean, the list goes on and on, dude. We'd be here for 5 minutes if I was telling everything. So
Thank you. I'll pay you later.
but most importantly, from that bio is we used to be training partners, and we met many, many years ago. And maybe we could talk a little bit first. I want to know like how you got into fitness. Let folks know how you got into this because this is your life's work. I mean, ultimately, whatever you're doing today, and we're going to get into that in this episode, fitness has really been the background and the foundation of your life's mission, in my opinion. And so I want to kind of start with how you got into it, what drives you there, and then we'll talk about a little bit of our background and how we met.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I mean, you weren't just a regular training partner. You're actually the best training partner ever. So that's number one. We used to do weights that were comprehensible. Easy for me to say. We'll talk about the incomprehensible weights later. But no, like you said, my whole life, we started off in sports, and I was the skinniest kid on the team. A buck 10, soaking wet with boots on, trying to play high school football in high school in Texas. And I was fast, but I was really skinny, and I loved athletics. I love sports. I love training, and when I started playing football, that weightlifting bug bit me. So I was 14 years old. I got that old Weeder set at home with it was crazy because it was concrete. It was like a little concrete circle with like a plastic wrap around it. Those were the those were the actual the plates we had. So that's how I started back in this Weeder system. And the bug bit me when we started playing high school football, and I loved athletics. And so from then on, I just really used training and sports as sort of a disciplinary measure, as sort of a way to be disciplined to avoid all the nonsense and just be focused on that. And really kept me out of trouble a lot. I was one of those kids who had one of those crazy childhoods where I got arrested and I went to jail. I have zero felonies. Thank God.
That we know of.
Exactly. All praise the Most High. We had no misdemeanors. We had no felonies. But that's because of weight training. Weight training actually saved my life, as I always say, because weight training was the only thing in the world that you could walk into a gym as a zero and come out as a hero. And you determine that. It's the only thing in life that you control it all. There's no excuses, no external factors, really. It's you against you. And so that's how I started, got into sports, and then I was basically going to study accounting at the University of Texas in Austin. And then I just said, you know what? I can't crunch numbers, bro. So I switched my major to nutrition, and the rest is history.
That's right. The rest is history. And in Texas, you actually started off, if I recall, you were powerlifting at first, right?
Yes. I started when I went to college. I started competing for the University of Texas in Austin for powerlifting, and it was a drug-free powerlifting association. I studied with. I actually got trained by like legendary powerlifters Jan and Terry Todd. Terry's passed away, but Jan and Terry Todd were like world record holders and just incredible powerlifting. In fact, they actually opened a museum of weightlifting at the University of Texas. If anybody out there wants to go to Austin, they can visit this incredible museum. It's a historical museum about weight lifting in the United States and around the world, actually. So that was my first intro into weightlifting. I learned from the absolute best. They taught me. Mark Henry was on our team. Mark Henry,
nice.
The powerlifter, he was on our weightlifting team back in those days. So that's who we were talking to. And when you see Mark Henry squatting 800 pounds in practice, you're like your mindset shifted. Like all the limits you had. You know how we all have limits. Like you talk about this really well, actually. You have all limits. That helped me shatter the limits because I was like, this is a human being. If he can squat 800, 900 pounds, like I was a skinny kid, but why can't I do it? Like or not 800, but for my body weight. And so that was really kind of what set the precedence for me to compete in powerlifting. I won nationals actually in my weight class. I
Yep.
still have from 30 years ago. I still have the deadlift record for teenagers in the 148-pound class. You know, I was 148 pounds. I deadlifted 525, which was still it still is a record today. So that's how it started, and then there I shifted into bodybuilding, which we'll get into.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, your kind of background, especially when you're talking about football, you're kind of reminding me because I had started the first time I touched a weight was freshman football. And I remember walking into the pit outside where football, varsity football was training. And I'm seeing dudes who are 6'2", 6'3", 300 pounds, receding hairlines. See, the seniors, the old linemen who are benching like 4 plates. And I'm like,
All
what the heck
natural.
is, yeah, right? I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So yeah, it's crazy to kind of witness that when you're just getting involved in lifting weights and just seeing the feats of strength that people are capable of. It's amazing.
And then you did those feats of strength. I was a witness to your feats of strength. But again, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. When I think people have a limitation in their mindset, especially when it comes to
Mhm.
weight training. I think a lot of people like they always say, I can't do that. Like I'll never be able to do that. But it's possible because if you put your mind to it again, if it's the only thing, if you really commit to it, you can get whatever you put in, you'll get the result from that. And whether that's breaking plateaus for you, lifting more than you've ever lifted in your life, that's all possible. I've seen that. I've done it for 30 years in a row, working with thousands of people around the world. And I've seen people literally shatter any record they thought in their brain of lifting weights, of looking the way they look. And all that has been completely thrown out. We always say we raise the bar, we raise the standards because that's what really it's all about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to believe. If you don't believe you can do it, I mean, how many people you and I both worked with, people are living in the past or they're worried about the future. And it's like, well, what are you doing with right now? Like get up and you can get up, go for a walk. But if you don't believe that you can do it, then you're going to be limited by your mind, right? That's a big takeaway.
Yeah, you are what you believe. You know, it's like
Exactly.
what was that great quote that said, "If you think you can't, you're right.
Yep, exactly.
You just won't do it. I mean, it's not possible." So really, you're absolutely right. It starts in the brain. It starts with the focus, the commitment. And I always say, anybody I ever work with, I said, listen, I'm not going to work with you if your mind is not right. And they say, what? What do you mean? I go, look, are you going to be committed to this mentally? Like, are you ready to really believe in this? And once they believe, then it's easy. But if someone is and you've had so many good clients too. You experience this where someone is like, well, why do I gotta do that? I don't want to do that. Well, I don't want, and it never works because their mindset is not right. Right. So you have
Yep.
to clear the mindset. That's one thing we actually do initially is I clear people's mindset and say, listen, whatever you think you can achieve more. And I want you to have the foot on the neck, the pedal to the metal, that kind of mentality. And I think that is important because I think a lot of times people try to do the minimum or the average, or they say, oh, I'll just do enough. But you can't be a little pregnant in this game. You know what I mean? It's got to be all or nothing. This is to me the greatest success I've ever had in anybody I've worked with, literally in the last 30 years, is when they've committed to it fully. Now there is flexibility, obviously, of course,
Of course. Of
but
course.
got to be committed to it with all guns blazing because if you do it a little bit, it's never going to work.
Yep. It's like Mr. Miyagi said, either you walk on the left side, you walk on the right side, you walk in the middle, you got to be committed. You got to pick a side.
Wax on, wax off, boy. Let's go.
So bodybuilding. Let's talk about bodybuilding because you were Mr. Texas, and I think that's kind of like your progression. I think that kind of really brought you to the next level. I think in terms of your career. You want to talk a little bit about that and how you got into bodybuilding, and then I think from there we have an important conversation to have in terms of our history.
Absolutely, and I think the listeners will be excited to hear that. But I started off in bodybuilding as sort of a joke. So what happened was I was a national powerlifting champion in my weight class, and my body was always ripped. I had that typical ectomorph, for life frame. Where I just could not put on weight. I just could not gain weight. I was 150 pounds always, no matter what, but shredded, always lean, always abs. I was an 8 pack, coming in to college in Austin, and
10 pack, I
so my
think.
friend, so my friend Brett was like a bodybuilder. He's like a professional
Yeah.
body, like a not professional, but he was competing, and he was a really big, awesome guy. He was actually on the cover of these romance novels back in the day. So he was a model that they used on the cover of these romance novels. So he's a big, big, huge, buff guy, blonde hair, like from New York, had this attitude. And so he kind of took me under his wing and said, "Look, we started training together, hanging out together." And one day he said, "Listen, it was Thursday." And he goes, on Thursday, he comes to me and goes, "Hey, by the way, I just wanted to know you look shredded, so I entered you into the Mr. Austin competition Saturday." I go, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, bodybuilding." I go, "What's bodybuilding?" I really didn't even know much about it. He's like, when you go on stage and you pose, and I was like, "What? Okay, what?" He goes, "No, no, I already paid your registration fee. I've already paid $100 for you." I go, "What? What are you talking about?" He said, "No, no, you got to go on stage Saturday. I'll teach you posing. I'll shave. I'll put the tanning on, and you're gonna compete Saturday. You're ripped. You can do it." And I was like, I was shell shocked. But then I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Okay, let's go. Why not?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I just jumped in, and I actually beat him in the competition. And so that's how it started. And that's where the bug bit me. And then I went a crazy run. And I was doing it naturally too, because I just knew a lot about nutrition at the time. And
Yeah.
so and training. And I trained as you'll talk about now, how we met in our training. I trained like that back then as well. So it was all out training, because I don't like me and like we don't really have the genes for this, really. You know what I mean? If you're
Yeah.
South Asian or a kid South Asian, you know our genes. Our genes
Yep.
are skinny, skinny arms, skinny legs, a little bit of a gut, strong shoulders. We always say shoulders, but but nothing else, nothing else. So that's I had to overcome all those things, and everybody. And I want you to address it a little bit. Every single person told me you're never gonna make bodybuilding. It's
Yeah.
impossible. You're desi. There's no way. You don't have the genes for it. You're competing against monsters. And guess what? I won Mr. Texas. I went to nationals. I did really good at nationals naturally when everybody was drugged up. So you know what? I was proud of the achievements that I did with bodybuilding naturally, because I just trained harder than everybody else actually.
Yeah. So that brings us to kind of the crux of the first phase of the conversation, training hard. So when I was training and I got more serious, especially into the nutrition side, I picked up a book. It's called Body for Life. And I read this book and I was like, man, this sounds pretty cool. So this is about the time I was getting involved in the supplement industry and working in the supplement side and the sports nutrition side. And so I read this book, and somehow you and I met, like literally a few weeks later after I had read this book. And I
Wow.
found out you basically had just worked, you were basically working for EAS, or you had just left EAS, and you had basically contributed heavily to the program and were involved in the program that Bill Phillips created. So there was like this kind of this, well, what's the word? Serendipity, whatever you want to call it. It was this
Exactly.
timing where I'm reading this book, I'm getting into it, and then here's basically this guy that I met who basically had been involved directly with this. So you and I were talking and said, hey, let's go train. I didn't know anything about you, dude. Like I met you for the first time. Everyone's like, oh, Mr. Texas is here. Like, who's Mr. Texas? So I so I said, let's go train,
You're a
man. Let's go.
little skeptical. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, who's this Mr. Texas guy? So we went to train, and I was training at Powerhouse in Fountain Valley at the time. So we went to train, and the first workout I remember, we did shoulder side laterals. Come to think of it, you
Yeah.
mentioned shoulders, and I saw you lift weights, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing, bro?" Excuse my language. You were picking up weights I had no idea could be lifted at that stage, because I was still, I was training, but I wasn't like training, right?
Right. Right.
So when I saw you training and the intensity that you were training with, I was like, what the heck is going on? I need to train with this guy. So that just got us rolling, I think, and we were training partners for several years. It was just amazing to kind of see the stuff that I saw, and the amount of weights that you lifted. And I was like, we didn't have social media back then,
No.
right?
No. Nobody had cell
No,
phones back then.
no cell
Literally.
phones, no social media. The stuff that you see today, we were doing a lot of that back then.
Absolutely. And then what's crazy is you were so smart, because you took all the knowledge, the intensity, the training, and you were lifting weights that were literally almost unbelievable. I mean, some of the weights you were lifting, I was just like baffled. I was like, how does he? I mean, I don't get it. Like it was like you were a bench press machine. My God, it was crazy.
My eyes up here, bro. Come on.
You got movies. You need a
But
man's
but
ear, a
But
bro.
it's interesting because no, it's in all seriousness, I think one of the philosophies that you imparted to me, especially in the folks that we were training with and training, was this concept of training till failure, right? And now you're seeing all this research, and it's interesting because research comes and goes. Now creatine's all over the freaking social
I
media about
know,
how
right? Isn't
popular,
that
and
crazy?
I'm shaking my head like this is like how much research can you have 30 years ago? I mean, like where are you all coming up with this stuff? So training till failure, muscle failure. This was the Mike Mentzer mentality too, and Dorian Yates mentality in terms of that shorter training sessions. What was your philosophy back then in terms of training? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I learned from a lot of different bodybuilders, powerlifters, working with Jan and Terry Todd, and then switching to bodybuilders. I actually worked out with Ronnie Coleman in the '90s, back
Hmm.
in the day, 100 years ago. So I started seeing these guys training at that level. Dorian Yates was a big influence, and then even Mike Metzner's programs were something that influenced me. And just learning my body and going to muscle failure, lifting as heavy as possible for as many reps as possible, and then doing two more after that. That was my really mentality, and maybe three more, sometimes. So that was my mentality. I was always about lifting heavy, and I think that it was intuitive. It was something that, when I did that, I always saw the best results. Every time I tried lightweight, every time I tried to do high reps, just never worked for me. And what's crazy is I actually tested my genes much later on, and I actually have fast twitch genes. So my
Hmm.
body is actually genetically made to lift heavy weights at an explosive rate at lower reps. That's what my genes are. So I knew that intuitively, back then, 25 years ago. And so I just wanted to lift that way. I saw the best results. Plus, the endorphins were crazy. The idea of just going to absolute muscle failure, the brain effects, and all those things that come with that intensity. And we always used to talk about, remember, we used to always say intensity builds immensity.
Yes,
So we
sir.
used to say, listen, if go heavy or go home, because if you aren't lifting heavy, we weren't getting the results. So, and like you said, so much, and I love all your posts, by the way. They're so good because you've
Thanks,
been
buddy.
through it for so long, and you've seen the research. And it's funny because you see all this new research come out now, and you're like, dude, we were talking about this 25 years ago. I helped actually bring creatine to the market in
Yeah.
1995, like 96. So literally, I was the first one to actually write about creatine, talk about creatine, and actually we studied with Paul Greenhuff, who did the initial research on creatine at the University of Nottingham, where he would mix creatine in tea and coffee. So people used to say, oh, you can't mix
Yeah.
caffeine or
I've heard
coffee
that.
with
Yeah.
creatine. Like that's what all the studies based on the effects of creatine were done on, like
Yeah.
literally in caffeine or in coffee. So that was the thing, and we learned so much about it. We understood it, and then now it's making a comeback, a resurgence.
I know. And now it's more so the research that I'm seeing is less about the muscle effects. It's more about the mental effects that people are zoning in on and sleep deprivation and those types of things. So it's very interesting how fitness has these cycles, right? Keto and creatine and carnivore and whatever you want to call it. These are not new concepts, right? They've come and they've gone many times before.
Yes, fat. You know what? I've been we both have been the victim of now the internet, but fad diets, and it's a fad for a reason because it'll come and go, and you could really, to be honest with you, this field as you go into it in depth is all marketing, and so like you said, there's all these concepts have been around forever. Like Dr. Atkins had the keto diet in
Hmm.
1988, like
Yep.
literally, so and it's making a resurgence now. It's keto, and now it's carnivore. Now it's just branding and marketing. And I gotta do a little bit of some clarification on even gluten free. I know
Yeah.
everybody has celiac disease now apparently, but
Yeah.
really, 15 years ago, have you ever seen anything that was gluten free? No,
Yeah.
everybody eats gluten left and right and had no issues. Suddenly now it's in the forefront of the news, and we blame big bread. No, I'm just kidding. Not big pharma, big bread. They
Big
they they
bread.
you know, they want they want to make it gluten free,
We're
but
gonna blame Big
I
Belly.
think I think that yeah, I think we know all these things, all these concepts come, and you're a very research based individual, and you look at research, but you look at practical studies. So I think it's a balance. I think it's always when it comes to fitness, it's the balance of looking at science, of course, as a base, but then also looking at real world effects. And also
Absolutely.
what works for you. What works
Yep.
for you cannot work for me, cannot work for somebody else. So customization to me has been the golden rule, the golden gem on why I've had so much success with my clients, and you've had so much success because you customize it to that person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you have to look at the person itself and the context around what they're doing and see what matches. And so I think the most common thing I can say is when someone asks a question is, I don't know, it depends. I need to
I
know
love
more
that answer.
information.
I say that all the time. I go, it
Yeah.
depends. I mean,
Yeah.
and actually, it even depends on you.
Exactly.
Sometimes there's phases of your life where hey, that works, but 20 years later, it might have something different, right? I
Yep.
mean, it just depends.
So it does depend, but I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. If you had to give two or three non-negotiables when it comes to fitness, where the context typically, I mean, the context always does matter, but two or three non-negotiables for the majority of people. What would you say if someone asked you on the street?
Look, I mean, there's just three things I'll give you three as a
Yeah.
bonus.
All right. Three.
Three things that I'll never negotiate with fitness for most people is weight training to muscle failure, as we talked about. That's number one. Whether you use light weights, by the way, you can use light weights, but
Sure.
as long as you go to muscle fatigue or as close to it possible, or muscle failure, that's number one. Number two is drink at least half your body weight in ounces of water daily. Water is a non-negotiable. That's for everybody. That's across the board. Most people actually that I test in my office, we have a machine that tests hydration, and about 80% of people are dehydrated, and they
Hmm.
don't even know it. They're like, oh, they got water bottles, or I'm like, dude, they're dehydrated, because they have mineral imbalances or whatever else. So water, I mean, at a high level, no matter what you're drinking, drink more. So that's a non-negotiable. And then number three is sleep. I mean, sleep
Hmm.
is a absolute non-negotiable when it comes to fitness because sleep has now been shown to affect muscle building, muscle breakdown, recovery, brain function. It's actually now they're even looking at it for increasing like lean muscle mass and even fat loss and all those things really directly correlated to sleep quality. I'm not
Hmm.
talking about sleeping 10 hours of poor, up and down sleep. I'm talking about like 7 to 9 hours of deep sleep or as deep as you can. And you can go as low as six actually if you go
Hmm.
deep. And so we want that REM, rapid eye movement. We want that sleep. And there's five stages of sleep, and we want the deep part, the third and fourth stage of that deep part of sleep to be at a very high level. So sleep to me is non-negotiable. And what's really interesting is try to sleep early. Like this
Hmm.
has been the curse of my life. I'm a vampire, so of course I stay up all night. But if you sleep before 10 p.m. and wake up early and wake up at the same exact time to maximize circadian cycle, your gains will be 10 times more and your health will be so much better because they've actually done a lot of studies on night shift workers where they showed that even if you sleep at like 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning, even if you sleep 8 or 9 hours, that 8 or 9 hours is much more detrimental than 8 or 9 hours if you slept at 9 and woke up at
Hmm.
5 or 6. So it's been clinically proven many, many times that sleeping early is like way better for you. So try to sleep earlier and also try to eat and sleep during the same times every single day. You got to be a robot in this. This is a
Yep.
very robotic thing. So, and the reason you want to do that is because you want to maximize circadian cycles, and that actually leads to better gains in your health and fitness.
Yep. I 100% agree with that. Especially the the structure and the systematic timing behind a lot of this stuff. Number one, it takes the guesswork out. Just from a psychological perspective, you want to have as low friction in your lifestyle as you possibly can. The more decisions you make, the more chaotic your life is, the more stress you're going to have. If you set yourself up on a regimen, a structure, and a schedule, you're probably going to be much more likely to stick to that. So that's also, I think, part of it too. But yes, I think in terms of circadian rhythm and getting to bed early, I mean, I myself, I'm in bed by 9. I may not fall asleep right away, but for me, I cannot do the 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock anymore like did when I was younger. I cannot function. I have to do it. Yep.
That's no, that you're absolutely on the right track, and I mean, I think to me one of the most important things you just touched on it. I think it's a very important point. I want to really make a point of this is personal preference because, like
Mhm.
you said, anything that's frictionless, anything that makes the program easier to follow, that's what you got to do because preferences are a big part of it. For example, if someone hates broccoli, I'm not going to make them eat chicken and broccoli because
Mhm.
even though I might think, hey, that's the best thing for you, but its compliance is so important. You work with
Mhm.
so many people and you produce so many great results, and the best programs are the ones that people stick to the longest.
Yep.
The consistency is so critical. So whatever we can do to allow someone to enjoy the program, to love the program, love the food they're eating, love the training, love the cardio, then we know we'll have long-term success. Whereas someone who's complaining about what they're eating or they hate what they're eating, it's only going to last 2 or 3 weeks. After that, they're gonna get sick of it and go on a Ben and Jerry splurge or whatever. You know what I mean? They're gonna wake up with like chocolate all over them or something because it's gonna be bad. It's what happens. I've seen it
Yeah.
literally. I've had to talk people off the cliff many times. It's like they call me up. They're like, I'm gonna eat
Put
this whole piece. I don't care. I'm
put the
giving
spoon
up.
down.
Exactly. I'm like, man down, red alert. But that's what happens. So if you can make things easier for people, if you can make things enjoyable, like you said, then I mean it's a breeze.
Yep, exactly. You talked a little bit about, you touched on it, you mentioned it very briefly, but I want to talk and switch gears a little bit to talk a little bit about your product formulation background, because I don't think a lot of people know the number of supplements that you have created that have been very popular. And that's from your biochemistry background and your nutrition background and just generally fitness. Can you talk a little bit about how you got into that and a little bit about kind of what sparked that interest for you?
Yeah, I'm officially a mad scientist. You know that for sure. So I do have a background in biochemistry and nutrition, food science. So actually, I started formulating in the '90s. Products and product development. I worked on Myoplex and a lot of supplements that EAS had back in the day. Creatine products. We were making creatine candy,
Mm,
phosphagen, which was basically a creatine with sugar product to enhance absorption because we realized that insulin helps you absorb more creatine into the muscle. So we were formulating all kinds of things, and I think I really back in the day the reason I got into it was initially this is way back. I'm gonna teach you guys, so you young kids, how it used to be back in my day in the Paleolithic era. We actually didn't have like PubMed or online research to find research studies. We actually had to go to a medical library and print out actual research, the whole
yep.
full text, not the abstract,
You just scan it.
yeah, not the summary. We had
Oh,
like those little booklets of studies. So
yep.
I used to comb through those. I was, while my friends were partying, they were going crazy, they were doing it, whatever they're doing. I was in the medical library in the trenches, absorbing all that information, all those scientific studies, and that's how I started understanding the human body, formulations, how nutrients affect the body, and also discovering new nutrients. I was the first one to bring Google steroids to the market,
Hmm.
Coleus Scoly. I was the first one to use these ingredients back in 1999 when nobody even knew what those were. And blood sugar regulation wasn't a thing. I was the first person to make a product that was a blood sugar regulator naturally. Nobody had that. And so these are the kind of innovations. And then I started creating many products that were like that. I had a product called Glucoline, Lean Results, that was on the market for 12 years. Literally, products that were Abgon, which was a huge product of
Yep.
mine, abdominal fat loss product, on the market for 12 years. So we had longevity because results. And understanding product development science, I've probably developed over 150 products throughout my career. I was the first one to make protein candy back in
Yep.
2001. Like literally, I had protein M&Ms, protein Reese's cups. Now it's everywhere, but I was the first one to bring that to the market. It was actually in 7-Eleven, and so it was something that you had a great nutrition store, and you were so helpful and extremely knowledgeable about supplements. So that's where we started back in those days, where we were kind of innovating and creating. Now there's no innovation left, obviously, but back then it was very exciting to create new formulas, amazing, compounding products and all those things. So it was an exciting time, and I really enjoy that process of creating a product that can help so many people get better results.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a very interesting time when we had all kinds of special supplements back in the day. We had the ephedrine and we had the pro hormones and we had all kinds of crazy stuff that eventually came off the market at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. But so that I think that also kind of speaks to the business side of things, right? Because you had to think about not only just product formulations and science, but you had to think about what's going to sell. What do people want? What do people need? What's going to work? And so what kind of goes into that creative process when you're trying to think about the market in general? And that comes from the supplement side, but it applies elsewhere as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. Right? You made a really good point. People don't realize that you can make the best. I've made some of the greatest products ever, like literally, but they're just too expensive for people, right? So you have to look at what is cost effective, what will people actually afford to buy, how rapidly they'll spread through the marketplace with the right marketing. Also, having research. I was a big believer of having scientific studies on the product itself, not on the ingredients, on the actual products. For example, I had the product Abgon. We did 3 clinical studies, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies at major universities, FSU, Baylor. So
Mm,
I love doing actual studies on the product itself, not the ingredients. And so that's a big part of it, but that's an expense. And so you have to look at a lot of different factors. You have to also look at side effects. You have to
hmm
look at how nutrients will affect the majority of the population. For example, working with caffeine, how much is too much caffeine? Some people have adverse effects. Combining nutrients is very important. Some nutrients shouldn't be combined.
hmm
Also, looking at drug supplement interactions. If someone's taking, for example, an antibiotic, they need more probiotics. They need other stuff. So looking at all those things that kind of what nature takes away, how to put it back in, and it's really a complex science. And then you balance all of that with marketing, with cost of the product itself, the retail price, wholesale price. So there's a huge business side of it as well, and also expiration date. Some
Hmm.
products sit on the shelf for a year or two, and they basically expire. And so you have to worry about selling through the product quickly because people don't want a product that's about to expire because of quality. So all those things are important factors, and that's something I've done for so long. And now it comes like natural, but back then you really had to do a lot of research and understand the market. And then the last thing I'll tell you is we don't guess, we test. Whether it's blood work, whether it's DNA testing now, or whether it was back then market testing. I used to do a lot of market research. I used to ask all kinds of people that were training, hey, would you take a product like this? Or try out this product. Let me know what you think. So these are the real world tests and the market research you needed and to see if there was a demand for the product. For
Yep.
example, and also there's two sides of that, whether there was a demand or whether you could create a demand. Do you remember when there's a product called NO2? So when
Yeah.
NO2, there was no market for NO. Nobody even knew what nitric oxide
Nope.
was, but
Nope.
they created the market through marketing. They spent millions of dollars marketing, educating the consumer on, hey, take this NO2, you'll be double your size before you go train. And the blood flow and all this stuff and the fake science they used, all that. So it was interesting. But again, they created the market. So now it's a whole different era. Now it's about different flavors and making peanut butter, cocoa puffs or whatever protein, and that's what it really. Now the innovation is very low. In fact, I was at the Expo West, the largest natural parks expo in Anaheim every year. We've gone many times, but this year there was really no innovation at all. It was
Yeah.
all just different flavors of products, every kind of protein you could think of. Protein cereal, protein gummies, like literally protein everything, anything you could put protein into, they did. Like literally, it was like insane. But that's
What
that's what happens over time is people just the consumer base, they just want protein, they want creatine, they want some stuff that's making a resurgence now.
I think that's still, from my perspective, I still see it, the population that I work with, at least, they undereat protein. So, given the plethora of these products that are coming out, protein focused, protein-based foods, and people still struggle to get their protein intake up to a reasonable level in terms of health and fitness and building lean mass, it's still pretty low in a lot of cases.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think that I think protein is the most important macro, as we both know. Protein, by the way, is not just involved in building muscle. It
Hmm.
makes up enzymes. It makes
Yep.
up peptides in the body, immune function. There's so many things that protein is involved in. Protein, actually, amino acids are the precursors of growth hormone, of a lot of different things in your body. So it's very important to get enough protein. Most people don't get enough, especially if you're exercising, because you're breaking down protein. And so I think you should at least minimum get 1 gram per pound of body weight. And by the way, you can overeat on protein. There was all these fake, not fake, but like all these hype studies where it's like, oh my God, if you eat protein too much, you have kidney damage. But guess what? Those studies, the only studies that ever have shown that high levels of protein cause kidney damage are people that have one kidney. Those
Mm.
are the studies that were done on.
Yeah.
So it was like, if in a normal healthy person, there's never been one study that I know of that's ever shown that protein at a high level, and they've tested 400, 500 grams in some cases.
Yep.
Still, no adverse effects, especially if you're exercising. So, protein is generally broken down very effectively. It's excreted out of your body. You might have expensive urine, that could be a possibility. But I think it's always better to overeat protein than undereat protein
Oh yeah.
because your body will really need it, actually.
Yeah, especially if you're craving something. If you're in a specific type of diet plan, you're gonna pick something up because you're hungry. I mean, start with protein and see how you feel after a little while and go from there, right?
Well, no, protein has satiety effects. Protein
Yeah.
increases CCK, cholecystokinin in your gut. It has appetite suppression effects. It has a feeling of fullness effects. It has a high thermic effect. The thermic effect of food, TEF, it has a very
Hmm.
high thermic effect. So increases your metabolism. There's a lot of things that protein does that's so critical when it comes to fitness. So definitely stick on that protein, man. Don't
Take
play
on the
games with
protein.
that protein out there.
Coming back to the product formulation side, because you were behind the scenes with actually putting products out. I was more on the retail side, so I was working with the people coming in and buying and wanting to, they pick up their favorite magazine and they're like, is this any good? And what's the best protein? And how do I get big? So it was, taking the products that were already formulated and trying to provide education to people and helping them understand the difference between, diet, training, and then that supplementation tier. And usually people want to start with the supplements and not start with the diet and the training. And so it's educating them around, around that perspective. Um,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, everybody wants a magic pill. They want a lightning in a bottle. The funny, I'm sure. Do you remember when you used to be at that retail store at your store when people walked in and they said, "Hey, what do I take to get ripped?" Like they
yeah.
just want to take something. It's like you're like, why don't you take nutrition, exercise, sleep, and then you could take something. How about that?
But I think one important factor was, and I remember you were big on this as well, and I think you wrote several articles on this, was the concept of pixie dusting and the kitchen sink formulas, right?
Oh,
And we're
oh.
still seeing that today. What are you thinking about that?
Man, that's a great question and a very important question. I want everybody to really understand this because so much of supplements is marketing and also maximization of profits. So really what it boils down to is they'll put hot or popular ingredients at a very low inefficacious dose in the product just to have it on the label. And they're making claims on it, but the claims are really based on a much, much higher dose. So recently I've seen they're doing this with creatine.
Mm,
One scoop, 1.5 grams per scoop. Take one scoop a day. It's like 1.5 grams of protein is not really going to do anything. You need 3 to 5 grams every single day, no matter what. And so, this kind of thing is, I think it's important to understand. It's important to look at efficacious dosages. And a lot of people put it into proprietary blends, which means you really don't know what's in there. But if you ask the company, email them, call them, and then send them messages, direct message now on the customer service, they should be able to disclose how much is in there, at least in a range. At least give you
mm.
a range. Now, if they can't give you a range, that's a red flag because they really hide a lot of the ingredients. So they'll say, "Oh, we have this ingredient and that ingredient," but really it's very tiny and won't have any really effect on your body. And to be honest with you, I don't even know why companies do that. Like I don't, I never got it. They still do it today. I don't understand. I don't understand why you would even take that little bit of expense and add like 5 milligrams of something of arginine or something just to have it on a label where it's doing literally nothing and it's still costing you. So why
Yeah.
not use an efficacious dose that people get results from, and you'll get customers for life. So I've always been a big proponent of very efficacious doses. Anybody who's taken my products, they know that you're going to get the maximum dosage. You're going to get the research tested dosage that's
Hmm.
safe but yet very effective. So that's a big part of it. So you really got to learn how to read labels, and you do a good job of educating. I'm educating people about reading labels, looking at ingredients, how they work, and also looking at the research behind it of efficacious dosages. For example, a lot of people quote studies to support the product, but the dosage was 5 times greater than what's in the product. So you got to be really careful. I think it's a little bit scammy there. And I think again, it's just a cost play. They're just trying to maximize profits. So you got to be careful with that. Look for efficacious dosages. I actually prefer products with less ingredients, not 50 ingredients. I want like maybe 3 to 5 or 6 ingredients, efficacious dose that works, that's effective. I think that's a better product overall anyway.
Yep, absolutely. So aside from creatine and aside from protein, because we already talked about that, what are your top two or three supplements besides those? What would you recommend if someone came to you and said, "Hey, what's a foundational stack for me?"
Yeah, I mean, I can give you three right now easily. The first one always going to be a multivitamin, multi-mineral formula. I think everybody's deficient in something, so it's always good to have a good multivitamin mineral that doesn't compete for absorption. That's high quality. The types of minerals that are in there are important. You want to make sure they're amino acid chelates or citrate. Those are the type of minerals you want. The second one would be definitely vitamin D3 and K2. I test most people in my lab on blood work for vitamin D, and I think last I checked, it was like 94% of people are deficient. And
Hmm.
even if they're in the sun, whatever, they're deficient. So I think everybody really should take 5 to 10,000 IU's of vitamin D3 plus K2 every single day. I think it's really important. There's no downside. Vitamin D is actually considered a hormone. Actually,
Hmm.
it works like a
Yep.
hormone in your body. It regulates so many different things, abdominal fat loss, even brain
Yep.
function, immune health. I mean, there's so many things vitamin D3 does. So I think that's a no, non-negotiable supplement you got to take every day. And then the third one I'd recommend would be a good probiotic. I think most people have a lot of gut issues around the world, in the U.S. especially, with the processed foods, all the stuff. Their gut health is suffering, and the disease, the house of disease is the gut. All the disease comes from the gut. So we want to make sure you have high levels of microflora in the gut. You want to have good bacteria. So a good probiotic that has a minimum of 40 billion CFUs, colony forming units, that type of product would be just, I think, a non-negotiable just to improve gut health, because gut health is also because of the vagus nerve that connects to the brain.
Hmm.
You actually
Yep.
have a lot of brain problems that occur because of digestive dysfunction. So
Yep.
even bipolar disorder, dementia, all these things, they're now seeing that it's actually rooted in the gut and poor gut health. So a probiotic is absolutely critical for overall health and wellness.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's so much research coming out about probiotics too. I remember I had some cohort peers in my doctoral studies, and they were doing their research specifically on probiotics in athletes, and it's just I'm surprised it's not getting as much or more press in terms of the creatine side than the probiotic side.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think creatine is also important. I think there's different types of creatine. There's a lot of different things you can look at as well. So you have to understand the forms of nutrients and get educated. I mean, there's so much education now online. You can get it. You have ChatGPT. I mean, come on.
Nice. Uh, talking a little bit about what you're doing, kind of this stage of your career. Now, a lot of folks know you, especially if they follow you on social media. You're very active now in the entertainment side, and you've been training celebrities in Hollywood and Olympic athletes and athletes and pro athletes for many years. So what projects are you working on now? What's the stuff that gets you excited now, aside from health and fitness?
Yeah, half my business is health and fitness. Half my business will always be health and fitness because I love it, passionate about it. But about 50% of my business is entertainment, as you mentioned. So we have a lot of different projects that are going in that. We have a movie out in movie theaters called Deep Frame. It's the world's first AI movie that's a full feature film that's photorealistic. So that's already out. We're making two more of those movies, a sequel and then a trilogy. And then we're making a TV series from that. We've got other projects in movie and TV and film. Some I can talk about, some I can't. But they're coming out, and I'm producing a lot of them. So I'm producing a lot of content for movie and TV, and looking at a lot of different projects to work on now. And then also, of course, I have the new CBS show that's coming out. So I have my podcast. That'll be up and ready in about probably 2 or 3 weeks. That'll be up and running, and then we'll have a lot of great interviews, infotainment. You remember my KABC show back in the day,
Yep, yep.
and we used to be on that. So now we're doing it with CBS, CBS Radio here in LA, and so we're working on those type of projects. And again, also still working with some celebrities, getting them ready for movies, getting them ripped up, and we do total body transformation. That really is very customized. We do a lot of testing. We do blood work, genetic testing, DEXA, everything you can think of to really understand the blueprint of someone. And once you have the blueprint, you can have incredible success. I've got new books coming out. So a lot of really cool things happening. I've got a peptide project that's going to come out soon.
Nice.
We can't talk about it
Okay.
right now, but it's coming out soon. And I think I gave you a sample, so
Yeah.
you got the first sneak peek at it. But that'll be
Nice.
coming out really soon. So yeah, really great stuff, man. Look, like you're helping so many people achieve their best body using really quality information. I'm doing the same thing, and now I'm moving toward entertainment and helping people that way as well.
Nice. We're getting close to the end of time, but I wanna merge a couple of these conversations together and kind of close out strong with what you see on the horizon. We're talking about AI. We're talking about 33 plus decades in health and fitness. Where do you see these two spaces merging in the next 3 to 5 years? What is your vision, and what do you think people should be prepared for?
I'm a big embracer of technology. I think that if you don't adapt, you adapt or die. If you don't adapt, you're out. I mean, that's what one thing I prided myself on is being on the cutting edge in every area for 30 years. Right when first the fax machine was there, and when fax was going away, people don't even the listeners are like, well, fax? What do you mean fax? Like fax? Tell me the facts? No, FAX. So the fax machine, we used to actually have to put documents into a little slider thing. It would come out like a copy machine and be sent on the other side to you through a phone line.
Carrier
So
pigeons.
remember, yeah. And then when email came out, people were like, "Oh my God, email! No way! We love fax. I want us the paper." But if you didn't do email, you're a fossil. You're out. So I embraced email quickly. And then when social media came out, boom, you embrace it quickly. So whatever technology comes, I believe that technology is an enhancer. It's an amplifier. And just like money is just an amplifier, right? If you're greedy when you're poor, you're gonna be greedy when you're rich, right? It's just an amplifier of what you are. So technology is just that, it's an amplifier. So with fitness, I think it's amazing. I think you can make moves very quickly. I think you can cut your the time and money. Really, you cut time and money using technology with AI. So I think AI is incredible. You know, I'm embracing because we made a movie about we made an AI
Yeah.
movie. So I'm in it. And
Yeah.
actually, I just partnered up with another agentic AI company called Centaura.io, and that company is doing amazing things. And we're working with athletes, sports teams, a lot of companies on really maximizing and using technology to improve human function, to improve efficiency, to lower costs. All those things are important, and people are afraid that, oh my God, I'm going to lose. But no, look, you're not going to lose your job if you become proficient in AI. You can enhance what you're doing. There's no robot's going to take the place of a trainer. So we're pretty safe, I think, in that regard, right? I mean, no,
Yeah.
I mean, if a robot starts stretching me, I'm not going to like that. And that, that's like, uh-oh, might snap a hammy. But no, you need a human touch, and you need somebody to motivate you. All those things that a robot, really can't do. So the good thing is in fitness, you have to combine technology with the human side and have like a coach. You can't use AI as a coach, really. You can use it in a certain way to get information, to get knowledge, to get education, but to actually implement it, that's what I love about fitness to this day, even with AI. You
Yeah.
still have to go work. Like,
Yeah.
no AI can work for you. You can't have AI do push ups for you and you get the results. You got to go and do it. So that's what I love about it is that the work will always be there. The human side in fitness will always be there. AI is just a tool to amplify, to save time and money, and to enhance fitness as it is now.
Absolutely. I mean, the human side is, I think most of us do. We like to emulate, right? We want to imitate and emulate those that we look up to or we admire, or we see others doing what we want to be doing. And that doesn't, a robot can't replace that, right? AI can't replace that. You want to see what's capable through other people and get inspired through that.
Yeah, there's no R2D2 or C3PO trainers, bro. No, that ain't gonna work. I'm gonna use my Jedi tricks to get them in shape.
So tell folks where they can find you, how can they follow you, and how can they keep updated with all your latest projects.
Absolutely. Just the best thing to do is just follow me on social media, all platforms, especially Instagram, where I'm very active. It's at Six Pack Diet Plan, SIX Pack Diet Plan. Get me on there. My book's the Six Pack Diet Plan, the Sports Supplement Buyer's Guide, and got a couple more coming out. And I want people out there to really follow you as well. You provide really good information, quality information. And the good thing about you, what I love, is that you are not only so experienced more than most people, you're no instant trainer. I mean, you've been doing this forever in the trenches, working with people, and you have the knowledge base and the science at a very high level. And so I think, again, you're one of the few people I actually admire in this field who actually are using all the tools to really get the best results possible in clients.
Thank you, my brother. Rehan Jalali, this is great episode. It's great talking to you. I'll have to see you on the flip side. We'll catch up again soon.
You're the best, man. Keep
Yes,
shining. Let's
sir.
go.
All right. Till next time. We have to do this again.
Oh, we will. This is part one.
Part one. All right.
Thank
Talk
you.
to y'all
Thank you
later.
so much for having me.
Yep. Thanks for listening to the Next Set podcast and today's episode. If this episode or previous episodes have helped you think or train differently, please share it with someone who needs it. You can find more coaching resources at apextacticalathletics.com. Put that in the description, and you can find us on Instagram at the Next Set Podcast. We'll see you at the next set.